As I said in the introduction, in this Gradual Sutta, the Buddha talked about the importance of guarding the mind, but he did not really tell us how to do so. That's why we go on to this section to find out how to guard or protect the mind. And the mind here is talking about the mind consciousness, or the intentions involved with the mind consciousness. Now look at the beginning of page 18, what to look out for. The discussion topic at the end of this section will ask if you see any link between restraint of the sense faculties and Kāyassati or Kāyagatāsati. You will have to give reasons for your answer based on the 4 excerpts in this section. And the answer is very simple. Either yes or no. Do you see a link? Yes. Why? Do you see a link? No. Why? Now, I want to remind you, first of all, I want to tell you that Kāyassati and Kāyagatāsati are synonyms. I said earlier, the Buddha can use different words with the same meanings. Right? So Kāyassati and Kāyagatāsati are synonyms. Don't be too clever and try to tell me there's difference between Kāyassati and Kāyagatāsati. That's not part of the discussion topic. Right? Don't think about that. They are synonyms, okay? And you can see that it becomes very clear when you read the second extract. First, the Buddha talks about Kāyassati, later he talks about Kāyagatāsati, and he's referring to the same thing. So let's go to the excerpts. So the first one is Gaṇakamoggallāna Sutta on page 18. This one actually is a sutta where this Gaṇakamoggallāna is supposed to be an accountant during the Buddha's time. He approached the Buddha and asked him whether he had any sort of progressive or graduated training for his disciples, just as professionals like accountants do. Like when you study in school, you start from primary, you go to secondary, and then you go to tertiary, you get your diploma, you get your bachelor's and your master's and a PhD and so forth. So is there a graduated training for the Buddha's disciples, just as we professionals have for our apprentices? So the Buddha replied, he said, yes, I also have a graduated template for my disciples. And this is called the gradual training. So he talked about the various steps in the gradual training, and this is the second step. The first step is to guard your precepts for monks. Yeah. The second step is to guard the doors of the senses. So here he says, having seen a form with the eye, do not be one who grasps at its signs, do not be one who grasps at its features. Since evil, unwholesome states of longing and dejection might invade one dwelling with the eye faculty unrestrained, practice the way of its restraint, guard the eye faculty, undertake restraint in respect of the eye faculty. So what the Buddha is saying, to put in a nutshell, is a bhikkhu, after having perceived anything with any of the 6 senses, he should not grasp at its signs or features. Whatever it is. Whether you see something with the eyes, or hear something with the ears, etc., or cognize something with your mind, after that, you should not grasp at the signs and features. Because if the monk grasps at the signs and features, what will happen to him? He could be invaded by evil, unwholesome states of longing and dejection. Yeah, or to put it in more colloquial language, he will be invaded by likes and dislikes. The Buddha repeated the same description, the same details for every sense, not only limited to the 5 senses, but to the mind as well. So, having cognized the dhamma with the intellect, dhamma here refers to all the 5 sense objects, refers to all the mental objects that the mind can perceive, can be conscious of. Right? So, this is giving details of how to guard the mind. So what is meant by signs and features? Okay, so what I'm going to show you here is the difference between grasping at the sign versus grasping at the features. Now this is only for the eye door, and it applies in the same way to all the other senses. Alright? Now, keep your eye on the screen, because I'm going to show something, and then after that I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay, did you see something? What is that? Human?
How do you know it's an alien? Sanya, right? Yeah, because you saw it somewhere in YouTube or some sort of magazine somewhere.
Male or female? Male or female?
You don't know. Because it doesn't have long hair, is it? Must all females have long hair? Perception.
Okay, that is grasping at the sign.
First, if you have a glimpse of it, right? You recognize what it is. And then when I ask you, what is it? Then you start to reflect on it. When you reflect on it, you are actually grasping at the sign. Because you are trying to reflect on what you saw just now, because it's no longer in your field of vision. And you're using your mind to look at it. That is grasping at the sign.
If you are just sitting there practicing open awareness, it's just another thing that goes in front of you. Now, how about this? Okay, look carefully. Can you see? Alright, this is grasping at the features. Because you are looking into the features to see more clearly what is that. Alright, so this occurs to all the senses. When you have a thought that arises in your mind, you will just watch it and let it go, then it's okay. But if you just want to know what it's all about, and then you try to make a story out of it, and you're already grasping at the features.
For example, you walk along to the dining hall afterwards for your lunch. Then you smell a familiar smell. And then you identify it. Oh, there's durian. Okay? That's really grasping at the sign. And then you go nearer and see, what is it? Is it Musang King? Is it D22? What? That's really grasping at the features. That's talking about the eyes. Talking about the mind. When you're meditating, sometimes you've got very good samadhi or good mindfulness, and then there is a thought that is about to occur, right? And then you nib it at the bud. It doesn't develop into a full-blown story, but you know there's something coming up. Now, if you start to look more closely into it, then slowly it will develop into a story. That is grasping at the signs and features. If you just see it, let it go, and then you just come back to your whatever you're doing, then you're not grasping. Right? Grasping means you are looking at it longer, and then you'll see the details, and there's grasping at the features. So the Buddha says that you should not grasp with the signs and the features, right? That's how you protect the senses. But how not to grasp with the signs and features? He actually didn't tell us, Just like the Buddha, he always gives you half instructions and then you go and work it out for yourself. That's what you do when you do open awareness, right? Touch and go, touch and go. The moment if you don't touch and go, it means you're grabbing at the signs and features. Okay, so there's a difference between grasping at the signs and features. Features means you try to look closely into it. And then in the next sutta, SN 35.200, simile of the 6 animals, the Buddha talks about the difference between restraint and non-restraint. And it's almost similar to what is found in the Gaṇakamoggallāna Sutta. He says that if you do not have mindfulness set up of the body, anupattita Kāyassati, then what happens is you're going to be pulled or repelled by what you perceive as the senses. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what the Buddha is saying. On the other hand, if we are well established in Kāyagatāsati, then you will not be pulled by the senses. Right? Earlier on, he used the word Kāyassati, now he used the word Kāyagatāsati. But actually, it's the same. The Buddha is very fond of using words like that, sometimes this, sometimes that, but you have to look at the context, and here is actually the same. Kāyassati and Kāyagatāsati means the same thing. And then he gives this simile of the 6 animals, and this sort of reiterates the fact that each sense door has got its own domain, its own sense object. He says, imagine that the man has caught 6 animals and he ties each of these 6 animals to a leash each. Alright? Then he will tie all these ropes or leashes together into a knot and then release them. So if the animals don't fight with one another, each of them will run to their own separate domains. Now, whoever is strongest will pull everybody along. So, the Buddha says it's like that. If the senses are not restrained, then what will happen is whatever is the strongest sense object, they will pull you. Whether it's feelings, sensations in the body, or whether it's a mental object, an idea. Yeah, if you're a very sensual person, you'll probably be pulled away by objects of the senses. If you're an intellectual, you'll be dragged by your thoughts and ideas. Alright, so it depends. And of course, nobody is constant all the time. Even though you are intellectual, sometimes also you are dragged away by senses. Then he gave the other example. He said, on the other hand, if a person is well restrained, then it's like, instead of tying all the ropes together into a knot and releasing the animals, you tie it to a strong post or pillar. Then what will happen? The animals will struggle to be free, and after some time, when they get exhausted, they will all lie down on the floor. Correct? So the Buddha says that this strong post or pillar is supposed to represent Kāyagatāsati, mindfulness of the body, or mindfulness directed to the body. So this is one simile. Alright, so based on this, we should try to find out, what does this mean? Why is the post called mindfulness directed to the body? Since the body is also one of those animals, isn't it? The body is also one of the animals. So if it is one of the animals, then you're already following it. So is this the same body represented by the animal, or is it something else? Some people say that the post represents the body and the ropes represent mindfulness. Yeah, if you tie mindfulness to the body, then this is Kāyagatāsati. Is that what the Buddha was saying? No, the Buddha didn't say that the rope is the mindfulness and the post is the body. The Buddha says that the strong post itself is supposed to represent Kāyagatāsati. It doesn't break up between the rope and the post, It's just talking about the post itself is Kāyagatāsati. Nothing mentioned about the ropes. Okay, so bear this in mind. You may not need this for this discussion topic, but you may need this for the next discussion topic, when we try to find out what is Kāyagatāsati. But it's not relevant for this section. This section, you just want to see whether there is a link between Kāyagatāsati or Kāyassati and sense restraint. Alright, the second one is Gaṇakamoggallāna Sutta, page 22. This one is talking about the most beautiful girl in the land. Imagine a man has been given this responsibility of carrying a bowl full to the brim with oil. And he's told, okay, you make sure that when you carry this bowl, you don't spill a single drop. Otherwise, there's another man standing behind you, he will chop off your head. Okay, so imagine this man was delegated this task and threatened with his life. And then he's walking through a crowd of people who are all looking and whistling at the most beautiful girl of the land who is dancing and singing nearby. So imagine this man is walking through this crowd. Then the Buddha asked the question, monks, what do you think? Would that man stop attending to that bowl of oil and out of negligence turn his attention outwards? And then the monk said, no, Bhante, he wouldn't. So the Buddha ended by saying, he is giving this simile to convey a meaning. And the meaning is that the bowl of oil filled to the brim is a designation for Kāyagatāsati, or mindfulness directed to the body. Right? Some people say that in order to be mindful, you must be like the person who is carrying that bowl of oil. You must be very careful and you don't spill it. That's what mindfulness is all about. But here the Buddha is not talking about the person carrying the bowl. You see? No, he's talking about the bowl filled to the brim with oil. Can you see that? It's not the person, he's not talking about the person, he's talking about the bowl filled to the brim with oil. That is Kāyagatāsati itself. Okay? So you have to figure out what the Buddha is trying to say. So again, this simile might come in useful for the next section, but not this one. For this one, you're just trying to find out whether Kāyagatāsati has anything to do with sense restraint. The last extract is pretty obvious. Here it talks about the Buddha seeing Asma Mahāmoggallāna sitting cross-legged. He didn't say sitting with his eyes closed, He sit cross-legged with his back straight. Eyes closed or open, it's not mentioned. Okay, and then he says, having mindfulness gone to the body, well established within. Right, then after that, the Buddha uttered these verses. He says, with mindfulness gone to the body, well established, restrained in the 6 bases of sense experience, continually composed, a monk would know Nibbāna for himself. So there seems to be a sequence. The sequence is Kāyagatāsati first, and then followed by restraint of the senses, and then followed by composure, and then followed by realization of Nibbāna. This is what is found in this sutta. So you look at the discussion topic, and the next page it says, can you see any link between restraint of the sense faculties and Kāyassati or Kāyagatāsati? Give reasons for your answer based on the 4 excerpts in this section. This question is not about what Kāyagatāsati is. In the workshops that I've conducted so far, everybody tried to find out what Kāyagatāsati is just by looking at these 4 excerpts. You won't get it because this is not sufficient evidence. You have to look further. That's why we go on to the next section to find out what is Kāyagatāsati. For this one, it's very simple. Yes or no? If yes, why? If no, why? Full stop. Alright? So be focused. Don't get distracted by the other irrelevant details.